Rob Schneider is an animal. Rated PG-13. Welcome. What's up, everybody? I'm back with a new movie review, and today I'll be covering, in my personal opinion, the only Rob Schneider-centered movie that I actually liked. Not that he can't be funny; he's been funny, but it's just, I think, let's be honest, I think majority of the people would agree when it comes to Rob Schneider, his style of comedy is best in small doses. Like I said, it's not like he can't be funny. He can. But it's kind of like a joke that goes on for too long, when it's kind of like running it to the ground. That's basically how some people feel about Rob Schneider. But when The Animal came out, I watched it a lot as a kid. Because I actually, I remember watching it quite a bit of times. I did have some laughs out of this. One in particular that, after rewatching it, kind of the funny came flooding back, But anyway, before I continue, please like this video and leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. What's your favorite Rob Schneider film? But I guess my second favorite, it's not really a count as a Rob Schneider film. He's like just in it, but it's probably Demolition Man. Like I said, the little parts he's probably in it for like at least 5-6 minutes, but he utilizes those 5-6 minutes perfectly. But yeah, and then also, it's probably one of those rare occasions he's not dressed in kind of stereotypically offensive garbs. But hey, nobody ever said it was cool back then. It was just like corny jokes that, it happened, not a huge deal. But anyway, this is directed by Luke Greenfield, who also did the movie The Girl Next Door, which is obviously critically acclaimed. I think a lot of people like Girl Next Door. As a matter of fact, I do want to see that again. I'm going to put it for like maybe next February for, romantic month. 1 second. Because I remember that one. Yeah, that one was insanely hot. I'm pretty sure that's an unrated version somewhere. Anyway, just out of curiosity, what else he also produced, co-wrote, and directed the film Let's Be Cops. Also produced the film Role Models. So he has some successes underneath his belt. He also did Half Brothers in 2020, which I don't think did very well. So it looks like, The Animal was his first feature film, which didn't do too shabby in the box office back then. It had like a budget of $47 million and raked in at the box office $84.7 million. So that's nothing to scoff at. Once again, is stars Rob Schneider as Marvin, a police evidence clerk, Colleen Haskell as Rihanna, not to be confused with Rihanna, because she wasn't a thing yet. Uh, police. She's an animal activist. You know, this day and age, she should be one of those pink haired, blue haired type of super leftist. But I think activists back in the early aughts really meant something, not like it is today. John C. McGinley plays Sergeant Sisk, of the sergeant of the Eckerton Police Department. Ed Asner as the chief of police, Wilson. Michael Catan as Dr. Wilder, a mad scientist. Louis Lombardi, get this. You didn't think it was like kind of, if you thought it was messed up that George Lucas had a character named crap, what was that? The overweight one. Crap. It's gonna bother me if I don't get like, Porkins, that was it. If you thought Porkins sounded kind of messed up, one of Marvin's best friends, I didn't even know this until I rewatched this. I don't know, it went over my head as a kid. His name was Fatty. I thought it was just a nickname, but they actually got him in the credits as Fatty. I was like, wow. It's like, man, it was like the Wild West back then. God, I miss those days. We got the comedian Guy Torry, who plays another best friend, Miles, who's like the airport security guard, who suffers from reverse racism. And you look at this character in this movie, I can't help but think about all the certain people nowadays that make everything about race. That's this freaking character. He'll probably thrive in this day and age. I was like, oh, you see why she poured my drink first? Why they couldn't pour your drinks first? It's because I'm black. You think pour my drink first will solve all the 400 years of racism? Blah blah blah. I was like, man. You just think about all the stuff that you hear nowadays, and back then it seems like this dude so over exaggerate every little thing. We thought this guy was ridiculous back then. That's part of the comedy of it. Nowadays, not so funny. It's kind of annoying nowadays. And I remember the actress who plays Rihanna, Colleen Haskell, she's actually was a former reality show contestant on Survivor, and she only been in a couple of things afterwards, like The Animal, which was her first starring role as an actress. But she had like a moment on that 70s show, and her last film she was in in 2002. Maybe It's Me, in that TV show. Yeah, so after that she left the entertainment industry. After she was assistant producer of the Michael Essany show in 2003, and then she left the industry. She's still around, but yeah. So, man, I remember as a kid, man, she is hot. Um, and had that cute girl next door vibes. It was one of those kind of girls like those. She was like the quintessential, uh, you know, uh, character that if you want to describe like that good girl you want to bring home to meet your mom, this is the type of girl that most guys in their minds typically picture. Not necessarily maybe she just got to be white all the time, but I'm just saying like she has the characteristics that a lot of guys would definitely put a ring on, or at least a lot of the good, well-intentioned men, when they trying to find like a good woman. You look at this character in this film, she pretty much, for the most part, fits the narrative that a lot of guys have in their minds. Anyway, Marvin is, struggling to become a full-fledged police officer, but he's struggling to pass the physical exam because of his own medical situation. He has asthma, and he can't run that far. So there's a lot of things holding him back, at least medical wise. And in this little town, he's treated kind of like a chump. I can't help but think about the Jim Carrey movie Me, Myself, and Irene, where the town just has no respect for this man at all. Where like old people's, giving him crap. This heavy-set woman who's, trying to join the police department, and somehow he is losing to her, and she is giving him crap. So Marvin is just feeling very low, and he's trying to achieve this because his father was a police officer, which only is brought up maybe a couple of times, and the entire thing kind of fell by the wayside part way through the second act. I think you could have kind of took that bit of narrative out, and it wouldn't affect the overall movie, because even when you look at something like The Waterboy, for example, and they bring up about how the father left, quite a few times, and then they kind of brought it back around at the tail end before the credits roll to kind of like have it come full circle. I'm not saying you need the exact same kind of situation where gotta have him having like a vision of his father giving sage advice, or so. It would help, but it just, I don't know, you need to add some kind of extra level of emotional stakes to it, because he really wanted to become a cop, but he's being held back by his medical stuff. It's kind of like Steve Rogers, Captain America. He wants to join the military, but because of his health issues, he couldn't pass the physical exam. He didn't need to have some kind of my father was this or that, the third, or my grandfather was this and that and the third, so I'm doing this for, like, no, he didn't need all that. He just wants to join. He could just have Marvin I really want to become a cop, and that's always been my dream. It could have been left at that. That's my opinion. But when, and I really like the best friends, because they really are definitely there for him. But one day, well, the I don't know why the entire police department had to go, but they went to this, took part in this softball league, and it's like, why the entire department? There's no, you left one man who's the office clerk or evidence clerk to man the phone lines while the entire department goes play softball. There's no, as adds to the joke, but I'm just saying it's kind of dumb. You don't have no reserve cops on deck. Whatever happened to those people who was doing the physical exam with Marvin? Clearly, they might have passed, at least some of them. Since there will be rookies at this point, they should be like, man the phone lines while the veterans or people who've been there for like at least a couple of years go off to play in the softball game. So I'm just saying it's kind of dumb. But Marv answers the phone line, and apparently there was like a robbery in progress at this restaurant. So he takes it upon himself, thinks like, oh, this is my chance. So he goes in his beat up car. He gets into a car accident, and he's rescued by this, weird mad scientist who ends up putting him through this surgery in order to save his life and replace his damaged organs with animal parts. And even as a kid, because you see, it's never specified of how many animals. We see some, but throughout the movie, and even as a kid, it didn't make any sense. Throughout the movie, you see Marv taking on, characteristics of various animals that we don't see. Where you see some that make sense, that like, okay, like, oh, a horse, or a monkey. But given the fact that you don't have the entire animal kingdom in this guy, because he doesn't have that many freaking organs, it's just like, I get it. It's the over exaggeration of it all, to play it up for the exaggeration of this world. But it's just like, I don't know, it would have helped to have like at least a list of, okay, what exact animals that you actually used, because you kind of left it up to the audience to just insinuate or go under the assumption that he has, whatever animal characteristics the movie just choose, or the writers just choose to have him emulate at that time. And it's like, does he have characteristics of a lizard? What about, I don't know, a bird? It's like, how far can you take this? But he wakes up aside his wrecked car, thinking all this was like a dream. He goes back to work, and his friend Fatty wondering where he's been, and Marv thinks it's been a good day, but it turns out he's been missing for a week since that robbery took place. But then weird things start happening to him. He notices that, because the most, some hilarity comes into play. As soon as he got out the shower, which, by the way, I gotta, we don't really take notes because we rarely see this kind of thing from Rob Schneider, but this is kind of the first time I kind of take notice. Like, I think around this time, Rob Schneider, not like he was ripped, but it's like, oh, it's kind of weird that he doesn't have like, the capabilities to run, because he looked like he's pretty fit. You see, he got a little bit of muscle tone to him in this film. Of course, he got a bit of a dad bod now, but back then I was like, holy crap. Rob Schneider back in the day, like, he kept at it at the gym, he probably would have been one of those kind of studs back then. I was like, holy crap, what crazy workout routine from Rob Snyder. Who would have thunk? But anyway, you see a cool kind of, I don't know, it's editing or just, slight CGI or something like that. But he comes out the shower and starts like just, shaking, kind of like the way dogs do to shake themselves dry. He does the exact same thing and he's completely dry. And we see like a surgical scar on him from, I guess, what happened. But it's kind of weird. You see one puncture wound. I'm not sure what was that for, because as soon as he turned around, we see him with a super hairy butt. Don't know why that is or the purpose of that was. Don't know if there's some kind of medical reason, animal related, that needs to have a hairy butt, or maybe it's side effects. But we also see a massive surgical scar, is giant X, where there was incisions of where, like, obviously went in to put in the organs. But we see Marv starting to run a lot faster, keeping up with a horse. Don't know why there's like a horse jockey in the middle of the road, but he has a couple of run-ins with the activist Rihanna, but it's always kind of been awkward, but she finds him kind of charming. We see him we see him going after a frisbee where a guy is playing fetch with his dog. Even as she walks dogs for people, and as soon as he approaches, they immediately sit and command, because he looked like they sense a pack leader or something. I like these little subtle things here to show that, okay, this guy clearly has some kind of I don't want to say supernatural, but very, enhanced abilities based on the DNA of the animals that was put, animal parts that was put into him. But clearly there are side effects, because he falls prey to said animals' instincts. Matter of fact, they kind of forced him as a human to revert to his own animalistic tendencies, which, he's kind of weirded out. And if you're wondering, this is kind of far-fetched. Not all that far-fetched, especially with medical science today. But here's the thing. Hold on a second. Because when it asks, I really want to use AI for anything. But every once in a while, I have to figure things out, because there's certain things I want to find out quickly. Because I asked, can people get organ transplants from animals? And yes, in some cases, people can receive organs from animals, a process called xenotransplantation. However, it's not a routine procedure and is usually reserved for situations where human organs are unavailable or for patients with no other options. Recent advancements in genetic engineering have focused on modifying pig organs to reduce the risk of rejection by the human immune system. This is like another thing I had a kind of an issue with when rewatching this. It's like, it wouldn't make any sense with blood-wise, because even when you want to get an organ transplant from a regular human, you got to find the right donor, because the blood has to be similar. Currently, the transplant is primarily used under compassionate use protocols, which are granted to patients with serious life-threatening illnesses who have no other treatment options. Potential benefits could potentially elevate the critical shortage of human organs available for transplant. Challenges: One of the biggest challenges is preventing organ rejection by the human immune system. There are also ethical considerations and potential risks associated with introducing animal genes into the human body. Recent progress include the plantation of genetically modified pig kidneys into humans, with one patient even being able to walk out of the hospital after the transplant. Future outlook: while the transplantation is not yet a routine procedure, ongoing research and clinical trials are exploring its potential to become a viable option for patients in need of organ transplants. So yeah, it's not, too far-fetched, but it's just certain animals. Not every freaking animal, because obviously you can't utilize a horse organ to replace a damaged human organ. Because you think about the size and the blood type, things of that nature. Pigs and maybe because you see certain mice growing ears to replace severed ears or something like that. But yeah, for the most part, it's typically pigs because they are the closest to human mechanisms, because who transplant dog or cats body parts or organs in a human, because we're quite big compared to dogs and cats. Anyway, one day while he's explaining to his buddy Miles about the strangeness that's happening to him, he inadvertently catch a drug smuggler using his enhanced senses to smell drugs that's up his butt. So it became an overnight sensation, and it just immediately, for good PR, immediately pushed to a police officer, kind of bypassing the whole physical exam portion. So now he's pretty much in the probationary period before it's kind of like the thing where you in a new job, so you during this probationary period to become before everything is solidified. So the chief of police, who Ed Asner plays pretty well because he's just weird, and Ed Asner with his stoic stonewall face, it's kind of like a what do you call those things, like the straight man, with everything else, almost everything else is like riddled in insanity. He just like, you're just like unmoved, and so it kind of adds to the hilarity. But when he sees Marv doing certain things like lifting his leg to lick off the powdered donut dust, and he just turns around and is like, you also gotta ask me, how did you do that? And it's like, it's okay, Marv, I too have eaten out of the garbage. And he just says it so matter-of-factly and just like lets it ride, and nobody freaking questions it. But this guy, I don't know if he's oblivious to the fact that Sisk is a complete D-bag, but he let that guy be his pretty much his proctor while Marv is on this probationary thing. And so after running into the scientist and explaining what happened to him, he says he doesn't want Marv out there because he's trying to keep things under the lid, because this is clearly unethical, and he has to hide out in the woods in order to do these experiments because he can get a whole bunch of trouble. But he is he's only like solace that Marv can run to, because he can't confide in people about what happened to him because he doesn't want to look like a freak, and he want to utilize what the scientists did to him because the perks is outweighing the negatives, but he's downplaying the negatives because he's starting to take notice that, yeah, you can run faster, you're a little bit stronger, all your previous medical issues almost non-existent at this point. You can smell, your senses are heightened to an insane degree, but you're from time to time fall prey to certain animal instincts like hunger, sex drive, you know, well, I'll get to that in a moment, but you know, the scientist explains to him after Marvin wakes up in a butcher shop, apparently sleepwalking, his animal instincts kind of took over, and he just kind of like, just went and found something to satisfy his insane hunger. Kind of like a werewolf kind of situation that you're looking at here. So the scientist explains to Marvin that, okay, you didn't listen to me when I told you that's why you needed to stay here, so I can monitor you and make sure that everything, goes smoothly, so I can catch this ahead of time. But since you didn't listen to me, now look, we're gonna have to figure out a way to foresee these urges before they pop off, because when they do, they all just take over, and you just won't be able to help yourself. So after he feeds him like a massive meal, that kind of pretty much sedated him, and it comes to understand, like, okay, you have to predict these urges before they happen, because you can't rely on your own human knowledge or brain patterns to kind of keep yourself in check, because even the humans are animals at the end of the day, but we're evolved to a certain point where, because our higher level of brain function, we evolved to a certain degree to be able to keep those things in check. Yeah, we all feel horny urges, but we just don't go around humping everything that we see. Otherwise, you'll catch a case or get shot. We all like to eat, but we eat until we're full. We don't go on a massive binge. It's like there's certain things we just stop doing after caveman period times. When you learn how to hunt and cultivate and farm and stuff like that, we stop needing to do all the savagery stuff like basic animals typically do. So Marv has been keeping, like a backpack for like Slim Jims and other stuff. Probably is product placement too, but he's keeping all these essentials to keep his nerves calm. That's kind of weird. You're being a police officer, but you're trying to keep your nerves calm to avoid certain instincts carry on. Even like starts barking at some clearly Hispanic gang members. He's humping mailboxes once he sees like a hot woman. So once again, after attending this party by the mayor, he ends up saving his son's life, who was about to drown in a nearby lake, and he starts behaving like a dolphin. I was like, okay, where'd you get a dolphin from because there's no water tank anywhere near that farm where the scientist is. So it's like it's confusing. Like I said, the writers just wherever the situation calls for, they'll throw in an animal that might be best suited for the situation. Uh, uh, or was it an animal or like a seal? I don't know. He does this thing that kind of looks like something like an animal or like a dolphin or a seal would do. So now he's even more popular, which Sis gets even more jealous. And on top of that, when he's trying to hit on the local activist, she, dodges it and says like, "Oh, well, I've already had plans with Marvin." I was like, "Oh wow, this doesn't sit too well for Marvin because now he's gonna get even more crap from this idiot." But this cheers him up, and so he ends up taking her out on a date where this idiot Italian guy, hits on her. I was like, this girl is not picking up what this dude is picking down. I was like, excuse me, please keep your hands off me. It's very gropey. But he's like gets away with it because he's like suave and Italian. Hey, like look at my pretty teeth. Clearly he's a bit of a player too. But we see moments where this is where I was gonna bring it up earlier. The instinct starts reeling its ugly head because like we see, like certain animals in the animal kingdom like sees like a possible threat to a mate. So he marks his territory. He pisses on her seat, or not her seat, but the legs of her seat to mark his territory. And he's like getting growly and looks at him very like, aggressively. So while the waiter goes on break, Marv excuses himself while he charges like a bull and knocks that guy out. And the movie cuts to him taking Rihanna to her home. Where it's like, okay, it was like, oh, like I wonder where our waiter went. I was like, how hard did he hit that guy? Because like y'all was there for what, maybe an hour? That's probably long enough for the Duke to come to and say like, hey, this weirdo just bull rushed me. No, and the fact that if they managed to slip out that night while he was completely unconscious, hey, nobody's going in that alley to check up on him because he goes for a smoke break but didn't come back. He didn't come to. It's like, hey, this dude who was in the restaurant that I was serving, he attacked me. I want to call the cops and press charges. That doesn't return. Like I said, I know it's an over exaggeration. I'm thinking too hard on it, but I just like, okay, how does this not come back on him? Anyway, they end up having a great time. And as soon as she, enters her home, Marvin pisses on her door, area to mark his territory once again. But mysterious things start happening late at night where certain farm animals again mauled by a wild animal. Marv constantly is waking up in strange places. And one of the farmers is like breaking down and getting really upset, while the chief of police is comforting him. And he ends up getting put on paid leave because there's a sketch artist that drew an image that looked exactly like Marvin. So now Marvin's upset. This is the second and last time he sees like a picture of his dad, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, Dad, I let you down. This will be the last time you see this photo brought up ever. Rihanna went to go see him, and she notices that his home is like surrounded, at least on the front facing, is blocked by a beaver dam he built with random wood that's around. It's like, okay, where the beaver part, where there was no beaver in the farm. I was like, there's only like 5 animals, and for the most part, the animals he impersonates is not seen in that farm. It's weird. I know I keep harping on it, but I'm just like, it's kind of weird. Y'all just pulling animals out of your asses. So, they end up spending a night together after he confesses about what happened to him. She ended up kissing him when a few seconds ago he had like a piece of stick in his mouth from constantly building like the dam bigger. It's kind of weird. I was like, God, you girl, you gross. It's like, before like you end up kissing, it's like, can you wash out your mouth first? But I guess it's kind of okay after we figure out later what's going on. But after they spend the night, there's like a mob, looking to pretty much point the finger and, I don't know, lynch him. I don't know whether they was planning on killing Marv because they thinking like he's like a out of control animal responsible because he's the prime suspect at this point. And of course, the mob, after Marv make his escape, the mob is pretty much, grown a little bigger, and Sisk is, running this whole mob thing. He's being a police officer. You think like he will uphold the freaking law about this. But this leads to a hilarious moment where the late great Norm Macdonald kind of is just some kind of mob instigator kind of dude. He keep constantly pestering and asking stupid questions, mob related questions to Sis, and it's just like, I was like, hey, what are we, we get separated? Should we find a such a place where we can regroup, right? Yeah. And it's like, stay with the mob. Hey! That part got the biggest laugh at me. No, I kind of forgot the other thing that kind of got the biggest laugh at me. I mentioned it earlier. I nearly forgot because as a kid, it's still, back then as a kid, I thought it was freaking hilarious. Because I remember watching it with my little brother and some relatives. We had like a huge laugh out of this. Because I remember getting this from Blockbuster. That's why I watched it a lot. But, as Rihanna's about to spend a night with Marvin, they make out, and he constantly wants to turn her around and clearly wants to doggy style her, like hump her. And he's like, it's like, and she was like, what are you doing? It's like, I was like, I don't know. It's like, you do know. You got animals in you, and they about to do what the animals would typically do, and like dogs, you about to literally, doggy style this woman. And I don't know why she acting like she's totally surprised and not probably up for it. And it's probably not the first literal, no pun intended, rodeo that she's been on where she's about to get bent over and, dominated. But then he turns around again. He gives a good smack in the butt and is like, so that kind of laugh. I still snicker at that even to this day. I was like, oh yeah, did get a laugh on me. But then the whole mob question, that part, that scene, is so freaking stupid. But anyway, so this part is kind of like weird because they started to, out of nowhere, wants to throw in these little red herrings out of the blue because the scientist mentioned, subtly to Marvin. It's like, yeah, I gotta correct this problem because you wasn't like the only procedure I did this on, and now I'm afraid that I gotta deal with this. And we see, which never was brought up ever, and never after this point, where we see the scientist having like his toenails turn to claws, And it's like, okay, clearly he's been experimenting on himself a bit. Don't know how he did so, because you probably need some help, because Marvin had to be put under to run them procedures and stuff like that. So, like I said, it's out of blue, kind of red herring. Was never brought up again, like he's about to turn some kind of werewolf or something. Then the chief of police start acting weird around Rihanna when she's looking for Marvin. Fatty's acting weird, like, I gotta eat. But then he just getting fed, nearby raspberries, growing nearby, thanks to Miles. And it's like, okay, what's all this stuff? And it's like, it would help if they would have seeded these red herrings throughout the film. You throwing it here is kind of like weird and out the blue. But when 6 finally catches up to Marvin, and he's got a kind of cool scene where Marvin's kind of like running like a cheetah. It's kind of like on all fours. Kind of reminds me of the movie Glass, where James McAvoy, who plays the Beast, and you see like a bit of a moment where he's literally running like an animal at Bruce Willis's character, and it kind of reminds me of that. Clearly there's got to be done at least some wire work involved, but that's like a kind of like a cool shot. So he ends up outrunning Sis. He ends up jumping over this kind of not gorge, but it's kind of like a gorge. It's, a canyon-like area. It's a clear gap. He managed to jump over, but Sis didn't quite make it, so he's clinging on to the edge. But thanks to Marv rescuing him, Sis still didn't want to. He still wanted to take him down. So Sis ends up getting mauled by Rihanna, who turns out at some point, and that part never was ever explained, she was put through the surgery, which the scientist never brought up to Marvin at no point. And clearly Marvin only reason went through that procedure because he was gravely injured. So where's the accident that befell her? Because clearly throughout the film, because there was like she explains that because the more recent attack that happened that caused the mob to really cultivate was an attack on a hunter. And she explains that, yeah, I did that because I was about to release this what kind of turkey it was? Vulture turkey? Yeah, turkey vulture into the wild. But he was about to hunt her, and I couldn't allow that. So her animal instincts, kind of like how like mother bears, mother cougars, just like, typical mothers in the animal kingdom get very ferocious when it comes to their young, which she looks at that baby bird she rescued as kind of like her young. So she got very violent. Typically the female species are the most violent. But clearly throughout the film we see these little late night attacks. You never know like how many was Marvin and how many was that the only one that was hurt and the others were Marvin? Was he the one that attacked that bull? Maybe. But it's just like, okay, what happened to her? What accident did she have to go through that resulted the need for her to go through a surgery that critical? It's kind of weird. But the crowd finds them. Don't know how they went past that big gap of a gorge. But then Miles jumps in and is like, oh, I'm the Beast. And then the crowd hilariously dispersed because they don't want to sit there and, mob a black man. It's kind of racist. I was like, oh, so let's not mob the black man. That'll be racist. So the movie ends a year later with clearly ignoring the fact that Rihanna just completely mauled a man. Uh, 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 these two get married. Have a litter of kids. Uh, they have like their own little animal sanctuary. Don't know if Marv is still like a cop at all. Uh, you assume so. And they end up watching a television program where Dr. Wilder uh, is being presented awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his uh, uh, for his work. There's so many kind of things he's done that was probably very unethical and not even noteworthy, but whatever. And that's where the movie ends. And yeah, there's stuff that doesn't work here, but it's one of those movies where it's like it's an okay movie, even after all these years. But back then, I'm pretty sure it was kind of fresh and interesting take, where it was interesting enough to warrant like the box office rollout that it acquired at that time. Because it didn't require that much of a budget. They managed to, rake in nearly $85 million. And this is a Happy Madison project, mind you. So, yeah, not too shabby, The Animal and Rob Schneider. And I also want to, before I end the video, I also want to point out, which I just realized, where is it? There is a sequel to this potentially coming. Let me read this verbatim here. In October 2022, it was announced a sequel is in development. In addition to reprising his role from the first film, Rob Schneider will also serve as director and utilize a script that he co-wrote with his wife Patricia Schneider and Jamie Lissow. Schneider will also serve as a producer on the movie alongside Michael McConnell. The project will be a joint venture production between content partners, Revolution Studios, Mar Vista Entertainment, Zero Gravity Management, and Tubi Original Films. So it's going on Tubi. I'm shocked that Happy Madison wasn't involved. Intended to be released via streaming as an exclusive Tubi movie, the project is near being officially greenlit by the Associated Film Studios. Principal photography commenced in early 2023 with its tentative release, which was scheduled for later that year but is currently delayed. So yeah, that'll be interesting, because this movie is 24 years old. So very curious if we'll see a trailer for this time by next year. So yeah, good on Rob Schneider, reprising his role, and be interesting. What will they reach? Because the person who played Colleen, the actress Colleen who played Rihanna, the love interest, she's not in entertainment anymore. And is he reaching out to her to come back to reprise her role? And we got Adam Sandler, doing the same bit Rob Schneider typically does in his films. As you can do it. It's like clearly he's gotta fulfill that role for Rob Schneider, but it's just okay, what will be the story here? Clearly got to do something with the kids, and kids got to be in their late 20s, early 30s. And how do you navigate kids with animalistic qualities? It's okay, clearly, that DNA had to pass on. That'll be interesting. So yeah, I'll be down to watch The Animal 2 whenever it comes out, because I have fun watching this. It's not bad. It's not a bad movie. Some might have differences in opinions, but I do recommend checking it out at least once. It's probably like in my personal opinion, the only Rob Schneider where he's the main lead that I actually kind of enjoyed. But anyway, leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of The Animal if you've seen it. If not, definitely check it out. There's funny moments in this that you would enjoy. But anyway, I will see you guys in a bit as I will finally do a season 3 review of Naruto. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you all in a bit. Peace.